Hey, what's up guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing a deck profile of my Elementsabers. Now this deck is a really interesting deck that came out in Flames of Destruction, and it's a really fun deck that relies very heavily on the Elemental Palace field spell, but it's really interesting because you can play all the Elemental Lords and even Dark Armed Dragon in this deck. Really fun deck, really easy to play. It's actually topped a couple of times recently, so like it's really a fun deck, and it's kind of competitive. So let's get straight on into this, and I'm actually playing something that's a really interesting tech that I have seen no one else play in this deck, and I don't know why, but I'll show you guys, and you guys can kind of be the judge, and we'll even do a quick guess game. So while you're waiting on the tech card to come up, comment down below and tell me what you think the interesting tech card is. I will give you a hint. It has to do with adding spells and traps to your hand. So it's an old card that probably no one has thought of maybe putting in this deck. I don't know. But I will show it to you guys momentarily. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit that like button, or hit that bell right down there so you guys can become part of the notification squad, and we'll get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to play 3 copies of Elementsaber Lupani Mana. This is basically the big boss monster besides your Elemental Lords, and depending on what attributes you use to summon it, depends on what ability it gains. If you use an Earth or Wind, it cannot be destroyed by battle. If you use a Water or Fire, it cannot be destroyed by card effects, and if you use a Light or Dark, your opponent cannot target it with card effects, which is really cool. The other effect is that you can send the way you summon this is you send 2 other monsters from your hand to the graveyard to special summon it from your hand, which is really nice because you can instantly special summon this card directly from your hand. I hope that they actually make another mana, maybe with Malehu, which would be really cool. Speaking of Malehu, we play 3 copies of Elementsaber Malehu. He's my favorite of them all because he's dark and he has long hair and he's cool. So once per turn, you can use a quick effect to send an Elementsaber monster from your hand to the grave. And by the way, the field spell lets you send them from the deck instead of sending them from your hand. So like you get cards in your grave that like give you the ability to do what you need to do with their effects. And it's like Foolish Burial. All of them have the effect of Foolish Burial at that point, which is nice. And they all change their attribute when they're in the grave. Like you can change, like if he's in the grave, I can change him to a wind type to give myself exactly 5 to summon summon like Windrose if I wanted to summon Windrose, which is really nice. But basically, he's Book of Moon if you send him from the deck to the grave, or send him from the hand to the grave until you get the field spell. Then we play 3 copies of Lupana. Lupana's effect is that you can send an Elemental Saber monster from your hand to the grave, negate the activation of a spell or trap, and if you do, destroy it. And then once per turn, this is the effect that all Elementsabers share. Once per turn, if this card is in your graveyard, you can declare an attribute. This card in the graveyard becomes that attribute until the end phase of the turn, which is really nice because like you can make them all dark, make like exactly 3 of them dark, or change a couple of them away from dark so you can have the exact amount that you need to summon out Dark Armed Dragon, which is really a reason why I love this deck. Then we play 2 copies of Malo. Malo's effect is that once per turn you can send an Elementsaber monster from your hand to the graveyard to send an Elementsaber or Elemental Lord monster from your deck to the grave, which is nice. And then he has the same clause that you can change his attribute when he's in the grave. Really cool. I really actually enjoy this deck because like it's just super cool. Some people don't play this, but I play it at 2, and that's 2 copies of Nalu. Again, I'm playing a big monster count in this deck because I play a tech card that like helps me a lot in the deck. But Nalu's effect is that once per turn you can send an Elementsaber monster from your hand to the graveyard to target 1 Elementsaber or Elemental Lord monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand, which is really cool. And then she can change her attribute when she's in the graveyard as well. Then we play 3 copies of Makaina. 3 copies of Makaina because Makaina is like essentially like the Stratos. I know it's a wind, like I know. Once per turn you can send 1 Elementsaber monster from your hand to the graveyard, add an Elementsaber monster from your deck to your hand, which is nice. And then also you can change the attribute, but you have to send 1 from your hand until you get the palace on the field. Then I play 3 copies of Aina. I think it's Aina is how you say it. I might be wrong, but I'm playing 3 copies of Aina. Her effect is that you can once per turn send one Elementsaber monster from your hand, and then she's essentially Monster Reborn to target one Elementsaber in your graveyard, or Elemental Lord that has been properly summoned, and then special summon it, ignoring summoning conditions. Now, here's my deck card. You might have already seen it, but it's 3 copies of Magical Merchant. Okay, the reason I'm playing 3 copies of Magical Merchant is this. If you play 3 copies of Magical Merchant, you only are playing, I'm playing 9 different spells and traps, okay? You need to get a bunch of these in the grave so you can, like, special summon your Elemental Lords, and you can OTK your opponent really, really easily. So, first turn, second turn, you set this, your opponent attacks into it, they go, what in the hell is that? Because they've never seen Magical Merchant. If they're new, if they're old, they go, oh, they know what it is. Basically, what Magical Merchant is that you pick up cards, not draw them from your deck. You excavate cards off the top of your deck until you draw you reveal a spell or trap. All the other cards that you reveal go to the grave. So basically, it's like that grass, but it lets you add a card to your hand almost, or reasoning, but it doesn't special summon it. This was when Yu-Gi-Oh was still wacky. Back in Magician's Force, this card was released, so it's really, really old, and like I was like trying to think of a way to mill a bunch of crap in this deck, so I could special summon, a bunch of Elemental Lords. So this was my solution: was playing 3 copies of Magical Merchant. It doesn't hurt the flow of the deck to play this, and you don't even need that many spells and traps in the deck to begin with. I have not seen anybody play this, so this is kind of like my own personal tech for Elementsabers, and I hope you guys actually try it because it's really, really good in the deck and it's really, really fun. So we really need to get to the field spell, so we're also playing 3 copies of Planet Pathfinder. You have to get to the field spell as fast as possible, so you have to play 3 Planet Pathfinder. Basically, you tribute this card to add a field spell from your deck to your hand. If you don't need it, you just kind of have it in your hand, and it sits there. But if you get the field spell, it doesn't matter, because you're going to win really, really quick. So, that's it for the regular Elemental Sabers and Techs. I will show you the Elemental Lords that I'm playing in just a second. So that's it for them. Let's get into the Elemental Lord boss monsters. So we're playing a couple of really interesting ones. And I'm actually playing a little bit more than what you really would, because of Magical Merchant milling them to grave. If you don't play this, you're going to change up the deck a little bit. So I play 1 copy of Moral Inglacia. Basically, this card rips 2 cards out of your opponent's hand when it's special summoned, and all Elemental Lords have the effect that if they leave the field, you skip your next battle phase, which is kind of sucky, but they do. 1 copy of Pyrorex. Essentially, this is Ring of Destruction. When it's special summoned, you get to target a monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you do, both players take equal to half the original attack of the destroyed monster, but Ring of Destruction gives you all damage. This one gives you half. 1 copy of Windrose. It's essentially when you special summon Harpy's Feather Duster. All of these are based off of originally banned cards. 1 copy of Grand Soil. Grand Soil is Monster Reborn when it's special summoned. And then 1 copy of Phosphorage, the Elemental Lord. I play 1 of each. I probably would play 1 copy of Odal Mirage just to say I play all the Elemental Lords in my deck and I have access to all of them because I think it's cool. Just really quickly, for those who don't know, Moral Inglacia is based off of Delinquent Duo. Pyrorex is based off of Ring of Destruction. Windrose is based off of Harpy's Feather Duster. Grand Soil is based off of Monster Reborn, and Phosphorage is based off of Raigeki, and then Odal Mirage is actually based off of Sangan, I believe, which is interesting, because they have consistently gone with spells and traps, and then they all of a sudden just grab Sangan. So that's for the boss monsters, and I'm also playing a Dark Armed Dragon. Some people play Blackluster Soldier. I did not choose to play Blackluster Soldier. What I was going to say is if you don't want to play this many Elemental Lords, or you decide that you don't like one of these Elemental Lords, drop it for Blackluster Soldier. It's a great card to play in this deck, and I would totally play it, but I like being able to like call a bunch of different elements and special summon out these, and my Magical Merchant sends all my crap to grave. So that's my lineup. I probably would play Odal Mirage included, drop a Planet Pathfinder when it comes out in the next pack. But that's it for the monsters. Let's get into the spells. So we play 3 copies of Terraforming. We're only playing a few spells and traps in this deck. We're playing 3 copies of Terraforming because we need to get to Palace of the Elemental Lords as quickly as possible. And then we play 3 copies of Palace of the Elemental Lords. Now this is a card that I need to read to you guys. All monsters you control gain attack and defense equal to the number of different attributes in your graveyard times 200. So you can call a bunch of different attributes and get all 6, and all your monsters gain 1,200 points or 1,200 attack points, which is really nice because your monsters can be normal summoned out and gain a bunch of attack. And then once per turn, you can add 1 Elementsaber monster from your deck to your hand, but skip your next battle phase of the next turn, even if this card leaves the field. And once per turn, if an Elementsaber monster in your hand or field would send a cards from the hand or to the graveyard to activate this effect, you can send that many equal to the number of cards Elementsaber monsters from your deck to the grave instead. So instead of sending them from your hand, you actually send them from the deck instead, which is really, really nice. So that's it for the spells. This card is essential. That's when we play 3 Planet Pathfinder, we play 3 Terraforming, and we play Magical Merchant to get it to hand as quickly as possible. Because we're going to hit this if you're almost guaranteed you're going to hit this if you play Magical Merchant. Like every time, unless your opponent negates it. It's not even slow either. Like, you want to go first in this deck to get that. Then we play 3 copies of Element Training. Your opponent cannot target the Palace of the Elemental Lords you control with card effects. Also, it cannot be destroyed by card effects, which is nice. Like, they can't target it and they can't destroy it, period. So this protects it. And then once per turn, you can tribute 1 monster, special summon 1 Elementsaber from your deck with a different original name or different original attribute than the monsters you tributed, and you can send this face-up card from your field to the grave, discard your entire hand, then add an Elemental Lord monster from your deck to your hand, which is equal to the number of cards you discarded, which is really, really cool. You can add a bunch of them to hand all at once just by sending this to the grave. Really, really love Elemental Training. Really, really good card. So that's it for the main deck. Let's get into the extra deck. You don't really need a lot of the extra deck stuff. You just need a couple of them. Isolde is one of them because it lets you add a warrior. And all these monsters are warriors except for your Elemental Lords. So that's why we're playing 2 Isolde. 1 Borreload because it's the best link monster in the game. 1 Yugioh because Yugioh lets us, do things and draw cards. 1 Firewall because Firewall pass, and Firewall is still really good at 1. 1 Topologic Trispania because Trispania pops all back row. You do not ever want to do this when you have the Palace on the field or Elemental Training on the field. Don't ever do it. Yeah, it's suicide. Don't do it. 1 Decode because Decode's Decode. 1 Nightmare Unicorn because it's good to have Nightmare Unicorn. 1 Phoenix and 1 Cerberus to pop stuff. 1 Goblin because we need that extra normal summon occasionally. 1 Underclock Talker because it is arguably the best link 2 in the game. And then 1 Utopia the Lightning package, which is Utopia, Utopia Prime, and Utopia the Lightning. You kind of need this because, like, sometimes you don't have monsters that get really, really, really big until you get the Palace on the field. And so if you can get, like, Malehu and Lapana on the field, you can overlay them to make this. So there's an off chance you make it. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed giving that deck profile. It's a really, really fun deck. It can kind of be a little bricky if you don't get the field spell. So that's why I tried to play a couple of little tech cards to show off to you guys. But anyways, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think down in the description or comments down below. And hit that bell so you guys can become part of the notification squad. And I will see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys. DarkArmedDuelist, out.